Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 7811-11-652. This is a trim package only for their 7811 medium duty double acting horizontal spring pivot assembly. The trim package only is literally just the exposed parts that you're going to see at the bottom of the door, which is going to be comprised of two cover plates. There's two of them. They're identical. They're non-handed, completely reversible. It doesn't really matter. And that, unfortunately, is how they make them. And what I mean, unfortunately, is when you do the big preparation in the bottom of the door for the horizontal spring pivot, the two bottom holes have nowhere to go. There's literally no wood to screw them to, so they are not utilized. And I understand why they do that, because otherwise they would have to literally have handed plates left and right. But nonetheless, this is the way it is. This is the way it's going to be, I imagine, and this is the way it's been for a long time. But there you go. Forgive me. Dimensional properties. The trim plate size overall about 9 13/16. Overall height about 2 5/8. The 652 in the part number means a couple of things. It means it's made of steel, and that it also is in a satin chrome finish. Bommer can also do the 7821 in a 626. Same mechanism, same business end, same spring assembly, but then the plates are made out of brass, and they would have a satin chrome plating over brass. Otherwise identical. With the two plates, you are going to get a heel plate as well, and that's going to go over the edge of the door to cover up the portion or the heel of the door that you don't see, or that you will have exposed if you didn't have it. Overall width of the heel plate, about 1 3/8. Overall height, about 3 1/4. It is radiused, and that's because a standard door installation is going to be a radiused edge. Doesn't have to be radiused to make it work. You can increase the margin from the jamb to the edge of the door to move all that over, so you have room for the door to double act in the space. But the fact of the matter is, you do need to have a heel plate to cover up the edge of your door when you're looking at it that way. You're also going to get the screws. You'll get a machine screw for your heel plate. That's that guy. And then you're going to get, you only need a total of 4 screws, and that they put 5 in the bag for holding the plates onto the face of the door. There is a link below this video to the item that this works in, the 7811-652. The link there is to the entire item. Why you might be buying the trim plates? Well, in the case for this client, they have a home that's literally 95 years old. This house has been remodeled over several phases over the decades to a point where it's quite disparate. You've got the master suite was remodeled 10 years ago, and that's its own thing. Over here in another part of the house, that's its own thing. The stuff back here was really never touched. Sometime in the 80s, they put in a couple of double-acting doors to the dining room, an epic dining room that would easily accommodate 100 people. And the plates on the bottom of those doors are brass. And, hey, I need new hardware. Well, you don't need all new hardware. I can sell you only the plates, taking a $70 cost into something that's half the cost. And that's why this client ordered these plates. You might be upgrading yours in terms of finish. You might say, well, I don't want brass anymore. I want something a little bit more contemporary for the time or the popularity of what finish is being used. You also might have a scenario where the painter took them off and threw them away. So whatever the case is, why ever you might need replacement plates, Bommer can accommodate. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Bommer products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. And at this moment, I have that full product catalog open. And if you were to navigate inside of it, do a Control F on your keyboard and type in 7811, and within a couple of keystrokes, you'll get to the page where you see the spring pivots horizontal type, the 7800 series. There is a table in the catalog that lists the different item numbers. And as you study that, you'll see how the columns change based on, or maybe they don't change, based on what the features are of the line item. We're dealing with a 7811. Your side plate material is made of steel, 1 3/8 to 1 3/4 doors, 3 foot max width, 90 pound, 3 foot max width, 90 pound weight. The other two columns don't really matter so much. But you can compare the 90 pound models against the other 90 pound models and say to yourself, what's the difference? Well, what the difference is certainly going to be is there are 6 of them there. There are 6 of them there, with or without a jam bracket. That is an L-shaped piece of material that the hardware screws to, and then you screw that assembly to the jam. That's one type. Hold open or non-hold open will be another type. So that describes the first 4. The last 2, where the cover plate material turns into brass, then you're dealing with brass in those instances. And I think that those are only, they're both hold open with or without jam bracket. So you're not going to get a 7800 series medium duty, 90 pound, brass plates, non-hold open, without literally buying the non-hold open version that's steel, and then, or what you do is you'd buy the steel model and then non-hold open, and then slap the brass trim package on extra. I guess if you really wanted to go that far, you certainly could. This design has changed but little over the decades. I have firsthand experience of a home built in 1943, and that door from the kitchen to the dining room of this home, this 3-bedroom home, a typical Cape Cod home, had that on there for 50 years before I no longer was having access to the house. Original equipment. And the item they make today is not identical, but it's practically identical. Little changed over the years. I don't know how long this pivot's been on the market, at least this type of hardware. But if I was going to guess, I'd say it'd be a whole lot closer to World War I, and maybe even earlier. We have scattered throughout our website lots of old catalogs, especially under Yale, Corbin, Rixson. You will see hardware that is from the 19th century, and you'll realize that hardware is actually little changed. The solutions that we need today were dug up a very long time ago. The hardware is little evolved in the sense of problem solving, even though it's substantially different with how we control doors with electrified hardware and more modern solutions. But the core of trim and auxiliary hardware and the regular stuff that a hardware clerk is going to be able to sell you has been around for a very long time. And in fact, I'll even argue that the choices we have available to us in terms of hardware has not grown, but has actually shrunk in terms of design. You can look at a mortise lock today, and you may be only presented with a handful of choices. Well, Corbin in 1915, they didn't offer you 3 different designs. They offered you 30, for sure. And it was a golden age, I think, of hardware. And when I watch old movies, comedy trio from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and on, I like to look at the background of the sets that they're working on, because you see hardware that you don't see anymore. And while there's a couple of companies that work on reproducing it, the material is all but impossible to get your hands on. Anyway, if you have any questions on the 7811-11 and a 652 or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.